your belt feels tighter, your latest blood test shows rising cholesterol, and your doctor quietly mentions metabolic syndrome. You nod, but inside, your heart sinks. Is this the beginning of the end? This video begins where fear starts, in that small, silent alarm from your own body. Today, we will gently unpack what is truly threatening your heart, and it is not always the cholesterol number you fear the most. For decades, we were told a simple story. High cholesterol clogs your arteries like grease in a pipe, and lowering it saves your life. The great cholesterol myth challenges this, arguing that the real story is far more complex. What if cholesterol is more of a firefighter at the scene than the arsonist who started the blaze? Staying with this video may completely change how you see your risk and your choices. Metabolic syndrome is not a single disease. It is a tangled web of high blood pressure, central obesity, abnormal cholesterol, high blood sugar, and insulin resistance. Imagine a spider web stretched too tight around your organs, making everything work harder. The great cholesterol myth reminds us, this web, not cholesterol alone, is what silently builds heart risk over years, often without pain or warning. Perhaps your total cholesterol is normal, yet you feel tired, crave sweets, and your waist keeps expanding. Or perhaps your cholesterol is high, but you eat carefully and feel strong. The authors argue that risk is not a single number, but a pattern. In metabolic syndrome, inflammation, insulin resistance, and oxidative stress form a toxic trio. The real danger lies in this storm, not in cholesterol alone. Imagine spending years fighting a shadow, while the real attacker quietly rearranges your life from the inside. That is what the authors call the cholesterol myth, a distraction from deeper causes. Stay with us, because we will explore why some people with normal cholesterol still suffer heart attacks, and how many with higher cholesterol live long, energetic lives. The difference lies in what is happening beneath the surface. Cholesterol is not a poison, it is a waxy substance your body actually makes because it needs it. It forms part of your cell membranes, helps you produce hormones like cortisol and sex hormones, and even plays a role in vitamin D production. The great cholesterol myth portrays cholesterol more like bricks in a house. Blaming the bricks for a house fire ignores the faulty wiring and the burning curtains. You may have heard LDL called bad cholesterol and HDL good. The reality is more nuanced. LDL and HDL are like transport trucks carrying cholesterol and fats. Some LDL particles are small and dense, more like sharp pebbles, while others are large and fluffy. The authors emphasize particle size and number matter far more for risk than the total amount alone. The labels good and bad are oversimplified name tags. In metabolic syndrome, high blood sugar and high triglycerides often transform LDL into small, dense particles. They behave like sandpaper against the delicate lining of your arteries. The great cholesterol myth highlights that this change is driven by insulin resistance and carbohydrates, not dietary cholesterol alone. Fixing the metabolic fire can calm these dangerous particles more effectively than obsessing over one lab value. Inflammation is your body's natural defense, like a controlled campfire that burns away threats. But when chronic, it becomes a forest fire, quietly damaging arteries, joints, and organs. The authors argue that heart disease is more an inflammatory condition than a cholesterol problem. In metabolic syndrome, excess belly fat, processed foods, and stress constantly feed this hidden flame, leaving cholesterol to arrive as part of the cleanup crew. Inside every blood vessel lies the endothelium, a thin, living layer like silky skin. It senses blood flow, sends signals, and protects you. High blood sugar, smoking, high blood pressure, and stress slam against this inner skin like a storm. The great cholesterol myth explains that damage to this layer is where problems begin. Cholesterol often tries to patch these microscopic wounds, yet we blame the patch instead of the injury. Insulin is the hormone that helps sugar move from your blood into your cells. In metabolic syndrome, cells stop listening. This is insulin resistance. Your pancreas shouts louder, releasing more insulin, yet sugar still lingers in your blood. The authors present insulin resistance as the engine driving many risks: high triglycerides, low HDL, high blood pressure, and more inflammation. When this engine runs hot, your arteries pay the price. The great cholesterol myth points to sugar and refined carbohydrates as central villains in metabolic syndrome. White bread, sugary drinks, desserts, these flood your blood with glucose, forcing insulin to work overtime. Imagine constantly pouring syrup into a delicate machine. Eventually, it sticks and breaks. In this view, sugar, not natural fats, is the substance quietly eroding your metabolic balance. Instead of obsessing over total cholesterol, the authors suggest looking at your triglyceride to HDL ratio. Elevated triglycerides often reflect too much sugar, while low HDL signals poor lipid transport. In metabolic syndrome, this ratio climbs, flashing like a red warning light on your dashboard. When you lower sugar intake and improve metabolic health, this ratio often improves, even if total cholesterol changes little. Picture this: you wake up tired, crave sweet coffee, skip breakfast, and grab pastries on the way to work. Hours of sitting follow, then a heavy lunch, afternoon slump, and late night snacking in front of a screen. The authors describe how this modern rhythm quietly fuels insulin resistance and inflammation. You may feel only mild symptoms, yet deep inside, your arteries and liver are working overtime to cope. Statin drugs lower cholesterol and are widely prescribed. The great cholesterol myth does not deny their power, but questions their broad use, especially when cholesterol is treated as the main enemy. For people with metabolic syndrome, the authors argue, lifestyle and metabolic healing may be more central. However, decisions about statins are complex and personal. Any changes must be discussed carefully with your physician before taking action. You may hear claims like, "This pill cuts heart risk by 30%. The book explains how such numbers often describe relative risk, not your absolute chance. A drop from 3 in 100 to 2 in 100 is a 33% relative reduction, but only 1% absolute. These statistics can sound dramatic yet hide context. Understanding risk clearly can turn panic into informed choice, especially when living with metabolic syndrome. Some patients on statins report muscle aches, brain fog, or fatigue. The authors share stories where people felt older overnight. For someone already coping with metabolic syndrome's fatigue and mood changes, this can be overwhelming. Not everyone experiences side effects, and some benefit greatly. This is why your story matters. If you're on medication or considering it, always discuss symptoms and options openly with your doctor. The heart is rich in mitochondria, tiny power plants in your cells. They rely on coenzyme Q10 or CoQ10 to produce energy. Some research suggests statins may reduce CoQ10 levels. The book discusses how this could explain fatigue or muscle issues in certain people. If you have metabolic syndrome and are on statins, talk with your doctor about whether checking or supplementing CoQ10 is appropriate for you. Here's a paradox. Many heart attacks occur in people whose cholesterol levels are not dramatically high. The great cholesterol myth suggests that unstable, inflamed plaques, not just the amount of cholesterol, are the real culprits. Think of a small, fragile scab on a busy sidewalk. One bump, and it ruptures. Reducing inflammation, stabilizing plaques, and improving metabolic health may matter more than chasing an arbitrary cholesterol target. Omega-3 fats from fatty fish, flaxseed, and certain supplements may help reduce inflammation and support heart health. The authors highlight them as contrast to inflammatory omega-6 excess from processed oils. In metabolic syndrome, shifting the balance toward omega-3s may calm the internal storm. But even natural supplements can interact with medicines, so please consult your physician before starting or changing any supplement routine. Oxidative stress is like rust forming inside your body. Free radicals are unstable molecules that damage cells and LDL particles. Antioxidants from colorful vegetables, berries, green tea, and certain nutrients can help neutralize this damage. The book portrays them as bodyguards for your arteries. For metabolic syndrome, nourishing yourself with these foods is like regularly oiling and protecting a precious machine, your own heart. High glycemic foods, those that spike blood sugar quickly, send you on a roller coaster of energy and cravings. The authors liken it to living in a theme park you never chose. After a sugar rush, insulin surges, then energy crashes, triggering hunger again. Over time, this pattern drives insulin resistance and fat storage, especially around the waist. Steady, low glycemic eating is like switching to a calm train ride instead. The great cholesterol myth does not say all carbohydrates are evil. Instead, it distinguishes between refined carbs, white flour, sweets, sugary drinks, and slow, fiber-rich carbs like beans, vegetables, and some whole grains. For metabolic syndrome, carbohydrate quality may be more important than sheer count. Fiber slows sugar absorption, nourishes gut bacteria, and gently lowers the load on your insulin system. Adequate protein helps stabilize blood sugar, maintain muscle, and reduce cravings. Healthy fats from olive oil, avocados, nuts, and seeds provide slow-burning energy and satisfy hunger. The authors suggest that replacing refined carbs with protein and good fats can calm metabolic chaos. For someone with metabolic syndrome, this shift is like rebuilding a house with solid beams instead of cardboard walls. For years, saturated fat was blamed almost as harshly as cholesterol. The great cholesterol myth reviews evidence suggesting that in many people, natural saturated fats, like those in unprocessed meats and dairy, may not be the main drivers of heart disease. Instead, context matters. What is saturated fat replacing in your diet, sugar, or refined carbs? If you have advanced disease or special conditions, always consult your physician about dietary fat changes. One type of fat does stand out as a clear villain: artificial trans fats, once common in margarines and packaged snacks. These damaged fats distort cell membranes, stiffen arteries, and worsen inflammation. The authors describe them as counterfeit coins that jam the body's economy. For metabolic syndrome, eliminating trans fats is a powerful, simple step toward healing your inner chemistry. Glycemic index measures how fast a food raises blood sugar. Glycemic load adds portion size to the equation. The book encourages readers with metabolic issues to think in terms of overall glycemic load of meals. A small serving of a higher GI food may be less harmful than a giant bowl of moderate carbs. It is like budgeting, not just price per item, but how much you put in your cart. Emerging research, echoed by the authors, suggests our gut bacteria influence inflammation, weight, and even cholesterol metabolism. Processed foods and sugar destabilize this inner ecosystem. For metabolic syndrome, nurturing your gut with fiber, fermented foods, and diverse plants is like restoring a damaged garden. A healthy gut may help calm the inflammatory signals that disturb your heart and vessels. Exercise in this book is not about punishing workouts. It is about movement as daily medicine. Even brisk walking improves insulin sensitivity, raises HDL, and lowers blood pressure. For metabolic syndrome, consistent moderate activity is like gently opening rusted hinges every day so they never lock. Start with what you can: 10 minutes after meals, a short walk during calls, small moves, repeated, reshape your future. Muscle tissue is metabolically active. It burns glucose even at rest. The authors describe muscle as a powerful sponge for excess sugar. Strength training, using body weight, bands, or light weights, helps preserve this sponge as you age. For someone with metabolic syndrome, building muscle is like adding more storage shelves in a crowded warehouse, preventing dangerous overflow into your bloodstream. For some, the book highlights gentle interval training, alternating short bursts of faster movement with slower recovery. This can improve fitness and insulin sensitivity in less time than steady exercise. Imagine walking 1 minute briskly, then 2 minutes comfortably, repeating. For metabolic syndrome, these small intensity waves act like resetting your body's rhythm. Always consult your physician before starting new or intense exercise routines. Chronic stress releases cortisol and adrenaline, hormones that raise blood sugar and blood pressure. The authors describe stress as an invisible foot pressing down on your metabolic accelerator. In metabolic syndrome, this constant pressure worsens inflammation and cravings. Even if your diet is perfect, untreated stress can keep your body in emergency mode. Learning to relax is not luxury, it is medical self care. Simple breathing exercises and mindfulness can lower stress hormones, slow the heart, and improve blood pressure. The great cholesterol myth places emotional and mental health at the center of heart protection. For those with metabolic syndrome, a few minutes of slow breathing, inhale for 4, exhale for 6, can be like pressing a reset button on your nervous system. It is small, invisible, yet profoundly powerful. Emotions such as chronic anger, resentment, and loneliness can act like silent toxins. The authors share how negative emotional patterns correlate with higher heart risk, independent of cholesterol. For someone battling metabolic syndrome, feeling unsupported or misunderstood adds weight to an already full load. Healing the heart, they argue, includes relationships, forgiveness, and community, not only diet and pills. During deep sleep, your body repairs blood vessels, balances hormones, and regulates appetite. Short or poor sleep increases insulin resistance and hunger hormones. The authors call quality sleep a free nightly health service you must allow yourself. For metabolic syndrome, improving sleep, dimming lights, regular schedules, limiting screens is like hiring an expert doctor to work quietly on your metabolism every night. Many with metabolic syndrome also suffer from sleep apnea, pauses in breathing during sleep. This lowers oxygen, stresses the heart, and worsens insulin resistance. The book urges taking snoring and daytime sleepiness seriously. If your partner notices pauses in your breathing or you wake unrefreshed, please discuss this with your physician. Treating sleep apnea can dramatically change your metabolic and cardiovascular trajectory. Imagine Mr. K, 52, with a growing belly, borderline blood pressure, and slightly high cholesterol. His doctor prescribes a statin and says, "Watch your fat." No mention of sugar, sleep, or stress. The great cholesterol myth invites us to reimagine Mr. K's care, focusing on metabolic health, guiding food choices, movement, and emotional support. His story is fictional, yet heartbreakingly common, and it can change. In the author's vision, Mr. K gradually replaces sugary breakfast pastries with eggs and vegetables, starts walking 20 minutes twice a day, learns simple breathing exercises, and improves sleep. Over months, his waist shrinks, triglycerides fall, HDL rises, and he feels more alive. Medication decisions remain with his physician, but his sense of control returns. This transformation is not magic, it is a new map. The great cholesterol myth encourages looking beyond total cholesterol to markers like fasting insulin, A1C, triglycerides, HDL, and sometimes high sensitivity CRP for inflammation. For metabolic syndrome, these tests give a fuller picture of risk. Think of them as different camera angles on the same scene. Discuss with your physician which tests are appropriate and how to interpret them in your unique situation. High blood pressure is one core pillar of metabolic syndrome. The authors compare it to cooking with a lid clamped too tight. Eventually, the steam strains the pot. Chronic pressure damages the endothelium and accelerates plaque formation. Reducing salt may help some, but stress, sleep, weight, and sugar also push the dial. Medication is often needed, and adjusting it should always be guided by your physician. Visceral fat, the deep belly fat around your organs, is not just storage. It behaves like an active organ, releasing inflammatory chemicals and hormones. The book portrays it as an uninvited factory built in your abdomen, constantly emitting smoke. For metabolic syndrome, losing even a modest amount of this fat, 5 to 10% of body weight, can significantly improve blood sugar, lipids, and blood pressure. The authors emphasize that you do not need to reach a perfect weight to gain real benefits. Losing just 5% of body weight can improve insulin sensitivity and blood pressure. For a 90-kilogram person, that is 4.5 kilograms. This is not a punishment. It is a realistic, powerful goal. Each kilogram is like removing a brick from the load your heart carries each day. The great cholesterol myth often points to Mediterranean-style eating. Plenty of vegetables, olive oil, fish, nuts, beans, and moderate wine. People following such patterns tend to have lower heart risk despite varied cholesterol levels. For metabolic syndrome, This approach balances fats, fibers, antioxidants, and pleasure. It is less a strict diet, more a colorful way of living and sharing meals. Some readers with metabolic syndrome may benefit from lower carbohydrate eating patterns. The authors discuss how reducing refined carbs, and sometimes overall carbs, can normalize triglycerides and blood sugar, but there is no single perfect plan for everyone. Pre-existing conditions, medications, and personal preferences must guide choices. Please collaborate with your physician or dietitian before making major dietary changes. The book explores nutrients like omega-3s, CoQ10, magnesium, vitamin D, and certain antioxidants as supportive tools. They are framed not as magic bullets, but as helpers within a larger lifestyle. For metabolic syndrome, these may gently support blood pressure, insulin action, and vessel health. Because supplements can interact with medications or be inappropriate at some doses, always review them with your physician before use. The Great Cholesterol Myth presents heart health as a four-legged chair. Nutrition, movement, emotional well-being, and targeted supplementation or medication when needed. If any leg is weak, the chair wobbles. For metabolic syndrome, strengthening each leg, bit by bit, creates stable support. Cholesterol becomes just one bolt in the structure, not the whole design. Hearing you have metabolic syndrome or your cholesterol is high often triggers fear and shame. The authors invite you to replace fear with curiosity. Instead of thinking, my body is failing, you can ask, what is my body trying to tell me? This shift opens space for learning and action. Curiosity transforms lab numbers from a sentence into a breadcrumb trail toward healing. Armed with this new perspective, you might ask your physician, what is my triglyceride to HDL ratio? Could we discuss my blood sugar, waist size, and blood pressure together? How might food, movement, stress, and sleep influence my plan? These respectful questions turn a brief visit into a partnership. Always remember, medication decisions should only be changed in consultation with your physician. Transformation feels overwhelming until you narrow it to a week. For the next 7 days, the authors might suggest cut sugary drinks, walk at least 10 minutes after one meal, add 1 serving of vegetables, and practice slow breathing once a day. These tiny steps begin cooling inflammation and easing insulin resistance. Your body does not need perfection. It needs a consistent, kinder rhythm. Close your eyes and picture yourself 1 year from now. Breathing easier on stairs, lab numbers quietly improving, clothes fitting more comfortably. Perhaps you still take some medications, perhaps not, but you feel involved in your own story. The Great Cholesterol Myth offers not rebellion against medicine, but a plea to look deeper. Beneath the cholesterol myth lies a more empowering truth. You are not powerless. If you are living with metabolic syndrome symptoms, your body is asking for attention, not punishment. Cholesterol is only one chapter in a larger story of inflammation, insulin resistance, stress, and lifestyle. Before changing any medication, supplements, or treatment, please consult your physician. If this video has given you clarity or comfort, please subscribe to this channel, press like, and share it with someone who needs hope today, and begin your next small step right now.